Hello YouTube. As promised, we're going to do a roadworthy rescue rebuild on this carburetor. The carburetor worked fine when we took it off, so all I'm going to do is clean it up. And to clean it up, I want to remove the hoses and I want to remove the stepper motor, and then we're just going to clean the outside. But there's enough hoses and stuff on here that I'm going to take pictures first. So here goes the pictures. Hello, phone. There we go. And so forth. There's one. This is about the 5th coat, and what I have found worked best on removing all this grease and gunk that was on the carburetor was engine cleaner, and that seems to work pretty good. But there is inches of grease on this thing, and I'm still finding spots that I haven't hit. But in a minute, we'll rinse this off and see what we have. All right, let's clean it off and see what we've got. There is a carburetor underneath all that gook. We still got a lot of gook on there. So I think we're making progress. Got some grease here. I guess we're going to have to go at it now a little bit at a time here. Now we have to go after all the little spots that the chemicals and the wire brushes didn't get. And it's just a matter of time and using a very small pointer to remove this grease. And there's a lot of it. I think we'll give it one more bath, and then we'll call it clean enough to put on the vehicle. Still some grease and oil coming off, but it's pretty clean now. Now we have to clean the stepper motor, and this boot's broken. I haven't found a new one yet. I can find a carburetor with the stepper motor, but I haven't found the stepper motor by itself. So we're just going to use this one until we find one. We're going to go through the same process we did with the carburetor. And we'll start off with a wire brush. one clean stepper motor. Now we have to clean these vacuum lines, and I'm going to try glass cleaner first. See how that works. Well, if I put paint thinner on there, that might take that blue line off. I don't know if I want to do that. Let's see what happens. No. Yeah. It takes the line off. We can't use that. Can't use the paint thinner because it takes the blue line off the vacuum hose. So we're going to have to stay with glass cleaner and just clean them so we can maintain the blue line. The final cleaning, if you will. Still grease coming off. Let's put our step motor back on. I can find the slots of the screws now. We can put this hose back on, and I think it went that way. So we go like that, and like that. And now I want to route this one the same way it was routed. Well, we can put this on. And the vacuum advance, I'm going to look at my picture. Time to put this on the engine. We'll put a gasket on. We'll put an isolator block on with the notches up on, and another gasket. Little anti-seize on the threads. And we'll put the carburetor on. Like so. Is that all the way down? That's all the way down. And we'll put our carb hold down nuts on, which have been powder coated. Little tiny nuts in a little tiny area. All right, come on. These nuts are a real pain. You can't get at them with anything. What I finally did was take a wrench and grind down the outside so that it would fit between the carburetor and the nut. And this is the last one, and we're done. The carburetor is bolted on. Let's move on to something else, like the power steering pump. Now, in order to do the power steering pump, we really have to take this pulley off. It takes a special tool called a pulley puller, and there's a groove on the power steering pump pulley that the tool grabs a hold of. And now let's see if this thing has enough guts to take this pulley off. New battery makes a big difference. Now, in order to put it back on, you need an installer. You can't just put it back on. But before we do that, we have some brackets we got to remove, some grease to remove, and some painting to do with the pump itself, because I can't powder coat that. Let's take some pictures so we can put it back together the way we found it. And we're left with just the pump. Let's get the oven fired up and do some sandblasting on pulleys and brackets. Then we'll come back and clean the pump up. With the brackets, pulleys, bolts, and nuts in the powder coat oven, we can continue to clean the pump. And the best thing I've found to clean greasy items is engine cleaner. Ordinary degreaser, heavy duty gel, and you just spray it on, let it sit for a while, and then you go after it with a wire brush, and most of it comes off. You do end up having to use a pick sometimes to get the really hard stuff off. But we'll spray this up and let it sit, and then use the wire brush on it. We're going to have to paint the power steering pump because I can't put that in the powder coat oven. And just so you know, all the orifices are plugged up. I think I have it pretty clean, but we'll give it one more rinse down with brake clean. And I don't see any grease coming off. And we'll wipe it down. I think we're getting some black paint off. That's okay because we're going to paint it anyway. We'll put 2 coats of primer on here. Let me turn the exhaust fan on. Here we go with a couple coats of semi-gloss black. And this is our final coat. We've assembled all the pieces to put the power steering pump back on the vehicle. We've got the pump painted, we have the brackets powder coated, we've got the pulley powder coated and the bolt heads powder coated. So now we're ready to assemble. First thing we do is put the back piece on. Little anti-seize. And 2 nuts. Now we'll put the front bracket on. Little anti-seize. And this bracket goes here, But we don't want to tighten this bolt because we're going to use it to pivot the power steering pump. We'll just put it on finger tight. Well, the bolt's started, we can tighten some up. Oh, that one's tight. There's a lot of bolts holding this power steering pump on. I've left the pivot nut loose and the pivot bolts on the front and the back loose so that we can still move the power steering pump. And now we're going to put the pulley back on, but it's not just putting it on, you have to install it. And you install it just the way you install the crankshaft pulley, with an installer. So the installer is just a miniature crankshaft pulley installer. We put in the stud that screws into the power steering pump and screw that all the way in. Then we take a thrust washer and a thrust bearing and the installer itself and screw that on. What we're doing here is holding the shaft so it doesn't turn and doesn't tighten. And we're turning the nut that's on the outside of the shaft that we're holding still, and that's pushing the pulley onto the shaft of the power steering pump. Okay, we're bottomed out. Now we take it off, and if we've done it right, it will unscrew and allow us to take it off. There's that. There's that. There's that. And we're done. Well, guys, what did we accomplish? We got the carburetor nice and clean. It's looking good. And we got the power steering pump installed with all its brackets and bolts and everything. It's all powder coated. In addition, in my spare time, I got the air pump cleaned up with its pulley and bracket, the fan, and the alternator. So we are making progress. I believe we met our goal of getting the carburetor and the power steering pump installed, plus some extra stuff. If you enjoyed this video, there will be more.